Shifting gears for the rest of the hour, we'll probably do 5 minutes of overdrive or so. So we have a full 30-minute interview with Steve Watson. Steve Watson joining us from the United Kingdom is, of course, Paul Watson's brother. He has a master's degree in political science. Both of them are great writers, very intelligent people. And Watson, his brothers, Paul's been working with me for 9 years. Steve, I believe it's for about 8 now. And they just do an exemplary job at PrisonPlanet.tv, PrisonPlanet.com. And Steve Watson joins us to give us his take on the fact that it's now admitted that the West has financed all these rebellions in the Middle East, Central Asia. Now even the LA Times is admitting that. And they're calling bombs being dropped, humanitarian and non-military, and ground troops that were there from the start, now publicly there, thousands more landing, British, U.S., EU, as they move forward for the open announcement of ground war, calling it a peacekeeping force. See, this is all UN nomenclature. And if anyone resists them when they're backing the rebels that are attacking Gaddafi's forces, the government forces, they're going to be called terrorists. We're going to talk about that. And then I want to get into royal wedding street party for Republicans is banned by cities in England. First, the government said the days off when your royal German family is ruling you, you get the day off, peasants, partying in the streets, normally not allowed for the slaves. But then the group that wants to get rid of the royals, the Republicans, said, well, we're going to demonstrate. And they said, no, not allowed. Meanwhile, Britain is criticizing Syria for banning protest. Or you try to protest outside the Capitol, they'll arrest you. See, the point is it's hypocrisy. Steve Watson joining us via video Skype from London, England. Thank you for coming on with us.
Howdy, Alex. How you doing?
Hey, I like that shirt you've got there.
I'm thinking about wearing it for the royal wedding. When I go out on the street.
Hey, Steve, tell us about the little story when we visited the tower and we're seeing the royal jewels, and there were some Brits in there worshiping the royal German family, the Saxe-Coburg-Gothas, like Americans worship Obama, and we had a little argument with them, didn't we?
That's right, yeah. It's quite a while ago now. We went to the Tower of London where they like to parade their various different torture devices throughout the years. And we were walking around looking at the projected videos of the Queen's coronation on the walls, looking at the various jewels that they display for the public. And then, we kind of expressed a bit of disgust at it all, as we do. And this lady behind us overheard us and said, "How dare you criticize your culture?" To which we replied, "Well, this isn't really our culture, is it? This is a culture of days gone by. I mean, call me a wild-eyed radical progressive, but I don't think our head of state should be selected based on whether they came out of the womb of someone who wears a crown and lives in a palace."
Absolutely. And then meanwhile, the royal family you have is from the continental Saxe-Coburg-Gothas that hundreds of years before usurped England, invaded England, and took the place over. You can go all the way back to William the Conqueror. I mean, this is a joke. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this is like pygmies with bones in their noses and headdresses. You've got some swollen old decadent crone up there who just neutralized for the third time in 3 years the Canadian Parliament because they didn't want to follow her orders. The truth is they run all this PR, how they're powerless and have no power. But when I've been in England, they shut down half the roads in London randomly to let you know she owns the roads. And on the tour bus, they told us, you are arrested in England if you talk bad about the Queen.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the argument that we hear over and over again, that the royal family is irrelevant, it's purely ceremonial, has no power. Well, if that's the case, get rid of it then, abolish it, because we're still paying, billions in taxpayer money into this all the time. Abolish it, get rid of it, put the money into, put it into education, put it into hospitals, do something with it, because if it's purely ceremonial, then we don't need it, do we?
No, we don't. In fact, we can search this and put it on screen. Last year, as tens of thousands of elderly were literally on the verge of freezing to death and having to ride on buses 24 hours a day to stay warm, having their welfare stipend for natural gas cut, it turned out that all the Queen's dozens of huge palaces were being heated off of the heating welfare fund, and then they also, just like the Dutch royal family, their cousins hide their wealth, and it's a state secret. This is amazing. But I noticed, Steve, you have the Queenie over your shoulder there.
That's right. Yeah.
I guess that's a sick joke.
Yeah, I thought you might like it, so I put it there. I'm gearing up for the royal wedding. I'm going to get out there on the streets.
Now, you're not going to talk bad about your foreign rulers, are you?
Well, I won't be allowed. It's banned.
That's right. In fact, it's in the news. They're saying if you dare speak in any way wrong of the royal personages, you will be instantly seized because England is so free.
That's right. I mean, right, what's happening is, for those that don't know, this is next week, next Friday, the royal wedding. Wills, good old Wills and Kate are getting married, right? So everyone in the country has got the day off. And what they've got to do is get out into the streets, have a big table set up with lots of nice cupcakes with their faces on and stuff like that. And that's all great. The Prime Minister says we've got to go and do that. But there's a few people in this country that don't really agree with having a monarchy anymore. And they've expressed the opinion that they'd like to have, you know, a little sort of not a celebration, just a little party of their own to just say, you know, we don't really support this. But it turns out that they're not going to be allowed to do that because the local councils are banning it. And let me read a quote for you from a news article about this. It was a group called Republic. Obviously, they're in the traditional sense of the word, they're Republicans in this country. They don't believe in a monarchy. They wanted to have a party, but they applied to the council to just make it all legit and everything. The council replied back saying that they couldn't have a party because they'd failed to provide an adequate management plan, which is, you know, really, that's what...
So really using bureaucracy as the communist Chinese just send in the troops, but if you now try to have that party, they will send in the paramilitary police. And expanding on that, I've seen it in the UK news that they may ban protesting, period, now in the UK. And similar things are now going on here in the United States, Paul. Steve? Well,
yeah, they've already banned protest around, you know, the most politically sensitive areas of London. You can't hold a protest without first applying to Westminster Council and stating what your protest is going to be about and how many people are going to be there, etc., etc., for anything at all. You know, there was someone who was famously arrested for reading out the names of soldiers that had been killed in Iraq from a newspaper that it was printed in that day. They were arrested straight away. And that's the kind of thing that goes on. But let me read this quote about the royal parties, because this is what the council wrote back to the group Republic.
Oh, of course.
We do not consider this event to be a community festival stroke party. The purpose of such is to draw the community together in an act of celebration stroke oneness. It's very likely that this event is not or would not be supported by the majority of the community. Indeed, it does not serve to engage the community in any way. So that's why you can't hold a Republican.
What an arrogant... read me the mainstream headline out of that. What an arrogant thing saying I mean, just throwing it in your face.
The headline is, not the royal wedding street party banned by Camden Council.
All right, now let's expand on that. You're wearing, the answer to 1984 is 1776. You're in Airstrip 1. A lot of people are like, why is this British guy, that's like a Dallas cowboy who lives in Dallas, you know, wearing a Redskin shirt. The truth is, if you study history, the Parliament didn't vote to have war with the other British citizens, the colonists, and then the king had to ride in and give a rare speech, King George III, and he wasn't liked, by the way, because he was, you know, could hardly even speak English. He was so German. And they got upset about that, but he demanded they do it, so they went ahead with the war. And so people think that it was the British hating America, the United States colonies were predominantly British, and of course were British ruled, and so we need to have the spirit of 1776 over there. I think we should launch an operation against this tyranny, and everybody should hang up the answer to 1984 is 1776, or just wear 1776 shirts, 1776 signs. I mean, who says the Brits can't continue what we did? I mean, absolutely. Let's run them back to the continent of Europe, and they don't want them there either. Well, but let's run them back to their German castles. What do you say, Paul? Steve?
Well, I mean, that's right. I mean,
you sound nothing like your brother, but I hardly ever interview you, so I keep saying Paul.
Much better looking as well.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Paul. Steve. Paul, Steve. Steve Watson joins us. Go ahead.
Look, in this country, there's a massive amount of people that are against the monarchy. And it was only a few years ago that there were TV debates and, you know, public votes about abolishing it altogether. Yet now we're in a situation where next Friday we're expected to line the streets and have parades and stuff. And I don't know why all of this has been forgotten so quickly. I mean, like you said, they're not even English. Let's not mention the fact that they're German. They changed their name to the House of Windsor to sound more English at the beginning of the 20th century. George V did. So, I mean, there's a massive movement in this country to just get rid of him.
Well, why can't I come there and be the king of England? I mean, I'm more you know, Britannic, you know, Jones than the Gothas. Can I come and be your king? Can everybody worship me?
Well, I mean, you can have a go. I'm sure. I'm sure you could set up your own little stall on the streets.
Maybe I can invade like they did hundreds of years ago and take over, and you can have a Texas king. And that's not as strange as having a German king, is it?
No, it's pretty much the same.
Would you like me to be your king? Would you like to eat cupcakes and stuff with my wife's picture on it? I mean, that sounds normal. That's normal.
I'm currently knocking up a few cupcakes with your face on them. I plan to
hey, tell you what, Steve Watson, got it right that time. Known Steve forever. I just hardly ever talked to him. So we're working on stories together here live on air with us. I want to come back and talk about how long will it take, though, for them to kill the new bride like the prince's father did. I mean, how long till they kill her like they did Princess Diana? That's an important question.